Sometimes, the scariest stories are the ones that actually happened. Tonight we're diving into real cases filled with strange encounters, disturbing details, and moments that are hard to explain. So get comfortable, and let's get into the stories. This situation haunted me well into my teenage years. Okay, so I was about 11 or 12. My parents had just gotten separated and were filing a divorce. They sold our house, and my mother and I moved onto a farm a few miles up the road, onto a random dirt road nobody knew existed. It was called Mitchell Road, and was named after the late farmer who owned the land. To add perspective, the road is about a mile long, winding and uphill, through dense NY forest. About a half-mile up the road is a pond, and then a very nice house with amazing bushes and a great yard. Another half-mile up the hill, there is a large horse farm, with a barn and house to the right. To the left was our house, a restored barn, attached to a huge yellow two-family farmhouse, with 2 families living in it. Along the little driveway is a large trailer to the right, just past the houses, and a place where cows used to be slaughtered. After that is another house with a family. Keep going, and there is a half-mile long driveway leading to our landlord's home, buried in dense wilderness. It was a creepy place to live, honestly. Anyways, my bedroom was the upstairs, and I had a window overlooking the road leading up to our house and all the fields below. There was a huge crucifix erected in the field, which we thought was kinda odd. It is normal-ish in our area, though. There are a lot of holy rollers in the tri-state area, and especially in my town. Well, one night, about a week after living there, I'm woken up by a pulsating glow in my bedroom. I thought the house was on fire, but I also saw the shadows of trees in my room, so I put 2 and 2 together and realized the light was behind the trees in our backyard. I go up to the window, and what I see is the creepiest fucking thing I've ever seen. The cross is fully lit, and it exposed the surrounding area with light. There were small fires around the cross, and outside of those fires I saw things moving about. It took me a moment to focus on the shapes, but what I later made out to be people on horses, with black robes and pointed hoods. I could see them now, as they were riding in the light of the fire. I don't know what happened next, because I apparently just blacked out and collapsed back into my bed, which was under the window. I was woken up in the morning for school, by my mom, and did not forget what I saw. I looked back out the window, and the cross was still there, but was smoking. It was made out of a metal, I think. It is white or silver with blue trim. You could see the smoke coming off the area still, as the fires had not yet burned out. After school that day, I observed the horse tracks in the ground, and found several empty liquor bottles. It was all fucking weird. I told my mom, and we immediately pieced the fuck out of that place. She put me in therapy for a few weeks just to make sure I was okay. I'll never forget what I saw. It was just all so fucked up. If any of you want to look up the address of this place to confirm everything, it is 131 Mitchell Road, Hoosick Falls, New York. You may be able to see the approx 25-foot-tall cross. It is behind the row of houses, next to the pond in the open field. There is also some creepy shit in the woods across from the house, down the road from the others. It is some sort of greenhouse-type structure, with furniture and taxidermy, wrapped in plastic. I went in one day adventuring around, and was immediately met by a strange man I never saw before, who didn't live up there. He was wearing clothes you would expect someone from the 40s to wear, and looked about 100. He shouted, "Hey kid, you're not supposed to be in here. It's posted property. Get the hell out, now." Scared the hell out of me, so I ran home and didn't tell anyone because my mom might get mad at me for causing mischief. This is only the second time I've actually revisited these experiences, as it was traumatizing to me. The first was in therapy. Recently, a young couple was in a fatal crash on the road. They crashed at around 5 a.m., it was confirmed, and nobody found them until a day later, and it was too late. They weren't from the area, and nobody knew who they were or why they were there. Their family didn't know why either. Really eerie shit has always gone down on that road, as far as I know. The older couple in the really nice house down the road worked in my school, and I once talked to the woman, school nurse, years later, when I was in high school, about how weird it was up there. She said, yeah, well, old man Mitchell was an occultist years ago, and had a family of 25, including multiple wives, who would often perform sacrifices next to the cross and rituals every full moon. Most likely, the family still does this, and this is what I believe I witnessed. Let's continue with the next story. The summer between my freshman and sophomore years of high school, a friend of mine and his family moved in with his grandma. They were buying a house that ended up having to have some work done on it, so his grandma invited them to live with her while they waited for the house to get finished. She had a beautiful big house, and it was just her and my friend's cousin that lived there, so there was plenty of room. My friend's cousin was 2 years older than me, and was going into her senior year of high school. The house's living room had a vaulted ceiling with floor-to-ceiling windows on all sides. It looked amazing, but gave you no real privacy. It wasn't a big deal, though, because the house sat about 500 feet off the road and had woods surrounding it on all sides. Shortly after my buddy and his family moved in, I went over on a Saturday to spend the night. My buddy's room was small, so we decided to sleep on the 2 couches in the living room. Just as we are getting ready to go to sleep about 1 a.m., we see someone walk past the window outside. We freak out. We get his dad, who shuts off the lights in the house. About 100 feet away, in a tree line, you can see a small red light as 2 people pass a cigarette back and forth. They are just standing there watching the house. His dad calls the police, then opens the front door and yells, and the 2 guys take off. The police find nothing over there. The woods are full of little game trails, so there is no telling where the guys went. The interesting thing is that there are only 3 houses within about a mile of this house, and none of them have older kids. One has very small children, and the other 2 have no kids. So we have no idea where the people came from. A few weeks later, another friend and I both spent the night there. The 3 of us walk into the living room at about 10 p.m. to watch a movie, and there is a guy standing looking in the window. We freak out and he runs off. Again, we can see the lights of the cigarettes in the distance. Over the course of that summer, there were multiple encounters with the watchers. There were 3 places they would come and stand, and we never could forecast if they would come or where they would go. They would knock on the windows. Once they shook the front door so hard it set off the burglar alarm. At times we would just see them in the tree line watching the house. Once they took lipstick and wrote "hello" on the window. During the day we combed the woods trying to find them, but never could. We thought it was likely guys from our school trying to catch a glimpse of my buddy's cousin in her bikini or in her underwear because she was hot, but it would have been a hell of an effort just to maybe catch a glimpse. We never found out who it was. Eventually the house my buddy's family was buying was fixed, and they moved. Who the watchers were and what they wanted is still one of the great mysteries of my life. Our next case, about 10 years ago. At age 19, I was very good friends with a girl who was as interested in the paranormal as I was. She bought a Ouija-type board called Psychic Circle. It had words, photos, symbols, and a book that told you how to interrupt it. We never had much luck with it. One night she took it over to her aunt's house, and they apparently had a really intense experience with it. Her aunt asked her to leave it for a few nights, so she could use it on her own. My friend left it, and we made plans to visit her aunt that weekend so we could all play together. So that Friday night we head over in hopes of a good supernatural experience. As soon as I got in the car, I just had a feeling of dread. I've had a few brushes with paranormal stuff in the past, and the prospect wasn't frightening to me, but I just felt wrong about it. We get to her aunt's house, and her aunt pretty much seems to dislike me the second I walked in the door. The feeling of dread is even more intense once I got to the house. I just sort of brushed it off as paranoia and tried to be friendly. My friend's aunt takes the board out of the box, and it looked old as fuck, weathered like it had been left in the sun for a few years. The previously bright colors were faded and worn. My friend said, "What happened to the board?" and her aunt told her it had been sweating. So Aunt puts it on the table, looking at me with the utmost of suspicion. At this point, I felt absolutely terrified, and my palms are clammy and shaky. I put them on the oracle, and her aunt says no. I take them off, and she says they don't like you. They don't want to answer your questions. I can just tell. We leave very shortly after that. My friend is upset. She says that whole episode was very out of character for her aunt. Her aunt refused to give the board back, and I wound up buying my own. No luck with that one either. Took it as a sign and gave it to some other friends. Up next, a disturbing story. So I'm laying in bed at my then-girlfriend's house, while she and her roommates are at class. I was hungover, and it wasn't unusual for me to stay over or chill around the house. Anyway, she has a little Pomeranian, and her roommate/cousin has a Chihuahua. Spee? I have no idea. They start going freaking bonkers in the hallway, like panicked yelps. It was enough to concern me, so I get up to check what was going on. I should say I'm 6'1" and very muscular/athletic. I'm in my boxers. Anyway, I open the hall door, and these two pretty hood-looking dudes are holding the dogs down, trying to shut them up. I didn't really know what was happening. For a second I thought maybe they were her friends. I don't know, so I just say, "What's up?" in a rather harsh manner. It surprised me how mean/aggressive I sounded. Anyway, the dudes fucking bolt. I stepped back and shut the bedroom door and kinda stood there processing that they were burglars. I looked out the window of her bedroom and saw that Pomeranian trotting around outside. I kinda gather myself and open the door and check around the house. They were gone. Her neighbors had the Pomeranian, but the Chihuahua was gone. Her cousin and her cousin's boyfriend found the pup later unharmed. Our next case, around 5 years ago, I'm pretty sure I saw an alien. I was 12 years old, and I had just moved to Querétaro, Mexico from the United States, with my parents and my brother. Since we didn't have a place to stay, my grandma let us stay at her house for a couple of years before moving out. Anyway, since my grandma's house was in a pretty bad neighborhood, my mother would park the car in a guarded parking lot about 2 blocks from the house, so every day we would walk 2 blocks at 5 a.m. to get the car out of the parking lot and drive to school. One day, we were walking towards the parking lot when all of a sudden my mom stops me and tells me to be quiet. Baffled, I ask what was going on. She then proceeds to point at a tree that was perhaps 8 to 10 meters away from us. I then see a small pointy-eared figure that would pop its head out from behind the tree, kinda like a little boy teasing us. This was no little boy. It was a small gray creature with big eyes just looking at us. My mom then proceeded to grab me by the hand and start walking on another direction. I then saw it run away in the opposite direction. About 3 years later, I was doing some research and found this. I'm pretty sure it was the same being or type of alien I saw. I can swear on my life this happened. Next case. My nan has a very good friend she has known since her nursing days, and back when they both had their kids and had grown into women, her friend's ex-husband rang up my nan. He was very depressed and needed someone to talk to, but my nan had to say that unfortunately she couldn't go over to see him as she had just had a newborn, my father, was breastfeeding and needed to feed. He said he understood and said, "I'll see you soon then." My granddad was on nights at work at this time, so she wasn't expecting anyone home or to visit until the next morning. At about 9 p.m. that night, she heard their front gate open. It was a very vocal gate. She liked it that way so that when she was alone she knew when someone walked up to the house. She assumed that maybe Granddad had been sent home or forgot something, so thought nothing of it. That was until the family dog Ben began to stiffen up and growl toward the front door and nobody opened it. He began to bark. Nan insists he had never been like that. He was a dog that had been brought up around 4 youngsters, placid, patient, and kind. She tried to get up to open the front door to see if some kids were playing around with her, but she couldn't. She was frozen in her place on the chair. She said she felt icy cold for about 2 minutes. The fire was blaring. Nan described that after the cold began to fade, she felt very calm and serene. and heard the front gate go once more. In the morning, when Granddad returned home, she explained to him what happened and at what time. He told her he had some terrible news, that her friend's ex-husband had committed suicide at about 8:50 p.m. that evening. It took about 10 minutes' walk to my Nan's house then from his. Next up, a story. So my grandparents, for some reason, had a way of always moving into haunted houses. The houses weren't really creepy, but they would always have weird, paranormal stuff happen. To keep the story short, here is my experience. It was summer vacation, and I was around 14 years old. At this age, I always would stay up late, eating junk food and playing video games. Because of this, I could hear the vibration of anybody walking down the hallway. I was at the end of the hallway across from my grandparents, so if I heard someone walking, it would usually be my grandpa, getting some Tums. It was a recognizable pattern, the sound of feet hitting carpet, as it makes its way down the hall to the Tums, and then back to the bedroom. It would be finished off with hearing my grandpa close his bedroom door, and then I started to notice something. Randomly throughout the night, I would hear these footsteps. If it was any later than 1, I would open the door, and nobody would be in the hallway. Staying rational, I assumed my grandpa just got inside his bedroom before I saw him. So when hearing the footsteps, I would wait till they were at the other end, where the cupboard with the Tums were, then open the door. Nothing, dark as the night could be. I got used to the sounds, since they weren't super loud or anything. It's just footsteps on a carpet, that I'm thinking I'm just hearing things half the time. One night, I was laying in bed and just watching TV. The head of my bed shared the same wall as my bedroom door. One night I heard the footsteps, whatever. They make their way down the hall. Then they come towards my end. Cool, I'm used to this, and I usually just ignore it now. Could be my grandpa. Could be the ghost. But then, the footsteps stop, and my doorknob makes a crazy clacking sound, as if someone is rapidly turning the doorknob without actually opening it. I jump out of bed, run to my door, and try to catch whatever it is. My grandpa can be a dick, and possibly messing with me. Nothing. Dark as night. Quiet as can be. I open my grandparents' door slowly, and I'm greeted with snoring. Good night. Next small story. Family went on vacation. Sitting in the living room playing Xbox. Hear a noise outside. Pause. Horn blaring. Live in the middle of the country. Grab my revolver. Walk out to my mom's Camaro, horn blaring. No one sitting in the seat. Horn stops. Fuck this. Walk inside. See something run through the house. Chase it to sliding glass door. Never opened. I have no idea what the fuck was going on. I left and stayed at my friend's house the rest of the week. Weird shit happens on this farm. Another time I stayed at my grandparents'. They went to sleep. I stayed up watching series of unfortunate events. Fell asleep. Woke up about 3 a.m. in the recliner. TV is on the DVD menu, turned down low. Heard this brutal scream from a woman. Blood curdling. Got the fuck out of there and told my grandma. She walked outside. Nothing. Also at my grandparents', they will see a little girl and an older woman from time to time. There's an old house that's halfway standing in the woods next door to them, where the old woman lived. My grandpa recognized her. She used to take care of him when he was sick. She usually only shows up when he's sick. They don't recognize the little girl. Do note that my house and my grandparents' house are all on the same farm. Sorry if my sentences and shit are weird. And second small story. Not really a scary story, just really unexplained. The details are a little hazy. I had been drinking a lot. But I was down in Toronto for a concert, and long story short, I got stopped by the police, and they arrest me and say they're taking me to the drunk tank. Not a big deal. I was very intoxicated, and had been before. I pass out in the back of the car, forgot to mention it was an unmarked car, sorta relevant, and they wake me up, and we're at some building that looks somewhat like a warehouse, not the police station. Anyways, we get inside, and it's like a hospital. The cops leave me there, and people come up and start taking blood, but like weird amounts more than you normally would take. Still not worried at all, because I'm absolutely shit-faced at this point, but then it gets weird. The nurse-looking people lead me into a bedroom where I guess I was supposed to sleep, and some bouncer-type guy slams me on the floor, throws me into bed, and straps me there, like 7 or 8 straps across my body. At this point I start going ape shit, left alone in some pitch-black room, strapped in, unable to move. Anyways, I pass out, and here's where it gets really weird. I wake up in these bushes beside Burger King. I didn't get robbed. Still had my phone in my wallet, with $15 in it. It boggles my mind to this day. I have no idea what happened. My friends think I was drugged, but I don't know. I swear it was real. Up next, a disturbing story. The only time I was extremely creeped out was this one time, staying at my parents' house. It was 2009, and I was visiting my parents during a break from college. Anyways, they had moved into this house the year after I left to go to school, and it always kind of creeped me out. Pretty big compared to where they were moving from. 4-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom, 2-car garage. Anyways, I was napping downstairs in the living room on the couch. It was around 1 p.m., incredibly sunny outside. I woke up to the sound of a doorknob jiggling upstairs. The doors for the rooms in this house had those doorknobs that you push in and turn to lock. My dad, being the guy he was, had locked himself in the bathroom a few times before, since he had never seen these kinds of doorknobs before. Too much comedic effect and frustration on his part. Anyways, the fact that it had woken me up was one thing. I'm a fairly heavy sleeper. I assume that my dad came home from work for a break, since it's about a 10-minute drive from the house, and go upstairs saying I'll get him out. The weird thing is that none of the doors were locked upstairs, and nobody was there. All the doors were wide open. I got a little creeped out, but chalked it up to a dream, or imagination. I go back downstairs, turn the TV on, and pretty much promptly fall asleep again. I wake up again. This time I know I heard the knob upstairs jiggling violently. It was loud enough that it was above the white noise from the TV. I immediately get creeped out, call both my parents from my cell phone to make sure they had come home early from work. Both of them were still at work. I sat for a second, TV off, completely silent, thought about checking upstairs, and noped the hell out of there. It's the only time I've been incredibly creeped out at like 2 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon. Next story. 6 years ago, when I was 19, I was staying the night at my 2 best friends' house. All 3 of us were sleeping on the bed, and I woke up in the middle of the night. There was a girl, around 6 or 7 years old, standing at the foot of the bed looking at us. I was so freaked out, I just kept looking back at her. I was too scared to do anything. She slowly faded away. I swear this really happened, but I'm not sure if it was a ghost or if I was somehow semi-awake and dreamt it. Scariest thing I have ever experienced, though, regardless if it was my imagination or really a ghost. I didn't tell my friends for a couple months because I couldn't really believe it, so I thought they definitely wouldn't. Then a few months after I saw the girl, they were telling me how one night they were in their room and they heard children laughing in the living room. They went to their bedroom door to listen better, and when they got to the door, there was a loud thunk on it, like someone hit it. They ran out of the room thinking someone was in their house, but when they checked the house, there was no one there, and all the doors were still locked. I told them about the girl I saw when they told me what happened to them. Next one. A few years ago, I'm living with my sister, because her and her SO, we fighting. He stayed somewhere else, and she was afraid to be alone. Fine with me. Free internet. I sleep in the living room on the couch by the window, and there's another couch on the wall behind me, near the front door. I wake up jumping from a bad dream that I can't recall, and sit up looking around. The room is fairly dark, but I can see pretty good. My stare reaches the couch behind me, and I jump up and stand there looking. And sitting there on the couch was a tall, dark figure. My first instinct was to bum rush it because, you know, brotherly protection. But as I stood there gazing at this guy, it came more clear to what I was looking at. I'm getting chills and my eyes are tearing up just writing this. Long, black, pointy-hooded robe. Its head was down enough that I couldn't see inside the hood, and its arms were crossed, folded into each other. It only took a few seconds, but it felt like an eternity. I ran into the next room looking for something to hit it with. I found a basketball and clutched it tight as I stood there and tried to wake up and wrap my head around everything that just happened. So I completely snap out of it and wide awake at this point. I chalk it up to pile of clothes on the couch before I gather the courage to check. I walk into the living room slowly and turn on the light. And right where the figure was sitting was nothing. No clothes. Nothing even remotely resembling what I saw. Went back to sleep. Told no one. Our last story for today. In 2004, I was 16. My parents decided to go to the Blue Ridge Mountains in western NC, and up into the western parts of Virginia as well. I saw Asheville, Natural Bride, and all sorts of things. Yeah, all sorts of things. We stayed over at a hotel in Lexington, Virginia. We settle in and go to bed. My mom and dad were injured in a very bad car accident in the 70s, so she cannot sleep on her back anymore, and has to bring a chair with her to sleep in it, like a reclining chair. So my mom's in a chair to my right, blocking the hallway to the bathroom, and my dad is in the bed to my right, and I'm in my own bed, nearest a sliding glass door porch. I wake up in the middle of the night to go pee. I open my eyes and look over towards the bathroom. Oh look, it's my mom. Oh look, there's an almost 7-foot-tall, cloaked and hooked figure behind her. Wait, what? Bricks were shat. I stared at it for minutes, trying to make sure it wasn't my eyes. I was starting to get up as I was sure it couldn't be what my eyes were showing. That's when it turned its head towards me, and its cloak rippled with the movement. Nope, nope, nope. I honest to God dove under the blanket and passed out in sheer fear within seconds. I didn't fall asleep. I fainted. The few seconds I wasn't, my only thought was that if I came from under, it'd be standing next to me. Next morning, I wake up and my parents are already getting ready. I instantly tell them what the hell I saw. They look at each other funny, which didn't help me feelings. My mom then tells me that last night she woke up, and a glowing hand was on her shoulder, and she felt pure joy from it. The hand's body would have been behind her, right where I saw the thing. The kicker is, she told my dad this down at the Continental breakfast before I woke up. So, 2 stories at the same spot, in the same night. My dad lamented he didn't see anything. He was genuinely upset. I should note, 2 months later he died in a car accident. I don't know about legend and myth, but from what I've read, was that a messenger coming to comfort my mom's coming pain? What I saw looked like the caricature of death. But maybe, despite it looking scary, it was a good thing. Or, it was tricking my mom into thinking it was good, while I saw the real thing. I don't know. What if the person watching you isn't a stranger? What if the danger is much closer than you think? We're looking at real stories that prove sometimes reality can be far more terrifying than fiction. To see more, subscribe.